So, Amy, lovely to be talking to you. How are you?
Very well. Thanks, Richard. Thanks for having me.
So, I just want to chat a little bit about the Careers and Enterprise Company and the Rewrite the Story campaign, which has an aim of bringing on thousands more, or certainly hundreds more, enterprise advisors. Can you tell me a little bit about, firstly, a little bit about the Careers and Enterprise Company and the sort of mission of the organisation, but then also about the Enterprise Advisor program and what are the big aims for it?
Sure. Thank you. So the Careers and Enterprise Company was set up about 6 years ago now. And the idea was to ensure that every young person across England in secondary school and college is inspired and prepared for the world of work. And of course, business and education have been working together for decades, but it was realised and recognised that not every young person were getting opportunities to engage with the world of work, to prepare them in their thinking and develop their skills. And of course, not all of those opportunities were of a high quality. So we're on a mission to make sure that no young person is left behind, and that we share the best practice that we see across the country so that we can all learn sort of what works and deliver really high impact careers outreach for young people. So the Enterprise Advisor Network is really the foundation of our work. So the way we went across creating this level of consistency is to work in partnership with local enterprise partnerships and their partners across England to co-fund positions that we call enterprise coordinators. And these coordinators are basically on the ground working with clusters of secondary schools and colleges to help them connect with employers. And as you said, to primarily help them find someone called an enterprise advisor who's a volunteer from the business world, doesn't have to be an expert in careers guidance, but can help bring a kind of strategic fresh pair of eyes to the school to help them shape that careers outreach program of activity for all the students in their school for a year. So the coordinator will look after a cluster of schools and will have an enterprise advisor for each school or college institution in their cluster and work to support them and obviously help share ideas across the areas and join things up.
And this is about long-term relationships, isn't it? This is about the enterprise advisor working with senior leadership team and with the careers advisors on looking at a kind of holistic approach. You know, how is the school or college embedding and considering pathways to work rather than turning up and giving a talk at an assembly or help just doing a CV writing workshop. Is that right?
Absolutely. So in a school or college now, there's something called a careers leader who is the sort of equivalent to our coordinator, but within the school. So they're looking across the whole school, looking to support all of the students and make sure that they have these opportunities to engage with employers, to engage with apprenticeship providers, further and higher education establishments, etc. And to work with the teacher workforce to ensure that, you know, those lessons are being brought to life with real world examples, for example. So we have the enterprise advisor working with the careers leader and, as you say, the senior leadership team of the school to really pull together that strategy and really think about how they might maximise relations with employers in the area, what kind of activities have really worked and really benefited students, what are we learning nationally but also locally about the sorts of things that work, and how can we help join up the dots as well, so that perhaps you might have employers supporting a few schools in the area, and they're all working against a framework called the Gatsby benchmarks. So this was derived from international research as to what brilliant careers outreach looks like, and I'm sure we've all got stories of our own careers guidance when we were at school, which, you know, I was handed the A to Z of careers and told to sort of get on with it. It's very different now, thankfully, and that's what we're looking to support. So the benchmarks are much broader. They're all about giving young people information about the different industries, job types, pathways, giving them experiences with employers, with different education establishments, so they can sort of test their thinking and get a real life experience of what it might be like to work in that field, and then to have support through someone like a careers advisor to give them that kind of one-to-one support to work through their thinking, think about their capabilities, their aspirations and the available pathways locally to actually make a plan. So it's much richer thankfully now, which is great, and it's that we want every young person to experience. So we're essentially setting that infrastructure through the Enterprise Advisor Network to enable that to happen between business and education.
And I guess the key thing is, it's richer, it's more nuanced. There's as you kind of say, there's so many more things to support young people to be thinking about. But that's why really important that there's people from business who are living and breathing the changes in the workplace and the advances in technology and business practices, to work with those careers leads on the sort of language and the expectations, because I think otherwise, historically, I think it's been a bit unfair to expect often lifelong teachers to be suddenly experts on how to get a job in engineering. I mean, that's a tall order, isn't it, when somebody
it's a tall order for any of us.
Well, I mean, I think it's a tall order for engineers, let alone teachers.
Exactly. You're absolutely right, and I think none of us know all of the jobs that are out there. It doesn't matter whether you're a teacher or whether you're in industry. Nobody knows all of that, and really our job is to share what we do know and to try and, as you say, make that as timely and relevant as possible, and really looking to those future jobs. There's a lot of discussion at the moment about the green jobs agenda, and what are the emerging roles that will come out from these new requirements as we have our race to net zero. But also, as industries develop, what does the future of retail look like? What does the future of construction look like, and healthcare, for example? So no one has a crystal ball, but you can share what you know, and really our job collectively is to inspire young people to feel curious and to take on agency of doing their own investigations and exploring their own path. They could never download everything, but if they felt inspired, if they felt excited by something, it triggers them to take agency and do that exploration.
Just want to talk a little bit about the Rewrite the Story campaign. My team had the absolute joy of working with your team just before Christmas on the ideas around this campaign. Very strangely, I think you're our only client in the history of Always Possible that we've run an end-to-end project for without ever meeting in person.
The new world.
It's a very strange world, but certainly from our perspective, we got through it. In terms of that wasn't a massive barrier in the end, which had we asked me that a year ago or a year before that, I wouldn't have thought that was possible. So we know we can do that, which is great. But yeah, we really enjoyed working with your team and doing lots of consultation with existing enterprise advisors, with enterprise coordinators, with businesses and schools and local enterprise partnerships, to really find a new way to present this opportunity, particularly to try to bring new businesses into the fold, people who may not have considered it before, or thought, well, I don't have the time, or I don't have the skills to do that. Well, actually, that's often not the case. Tell me a little bit about how the campaign is rolled out. So it was launched in January. We're now talking in early May. What's the last few months been like, and how's the campaign been received?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, just to reiterate, thank you. It was seamless working with you and the team, and you were incredibly agile, flexible, and professional in your delivery. So thanks to the team for everything that you did to create what I think has been a really successful campaign. As you say, we're kind of the early doors in it, but as we discussed when we were commissioning the campaign, this is not a moment in time. We will always need this role to be in place. So we wanted a campaign that would be enduring, and that our network across the country could use it and sort of shape it for particular moments in the year to reinvigorate the message. I suppose to put it in context, I think we had about 3,500 roughly enterprise advisors at the time that we were commissioning this campaign, and we really wanted to increase the number of enterprise advisors that we've got, both sort of as an addition, but also to ensure that we had a strong pipeline of future volunteers, because as I say, we've been going for a few years now, and of course we're going to expect people to sort of retire from this volunteer position, and therefore we would need new people to come forward. And also we wanted to increase the sort of diversity of the people who are acting in that role. And so it's been great. We've had a really good response through our LEP partners, who've really appreciated this suite of assets that we created together through the campaign work. So for example, our Cheshire and Warrington colleagues used them to create a social media campaign which drove increased traffic for them. In London, we've had over 100 expressions of interest in the role, and they've done a number of sort of lunch and learn sessions using the assets, using the key messages that your team helped us shape from those stakeholder interviews you mentioned. And D2N2, for example, they've used the presentation deck to present to a really big sort of food and drink company, which is great. They have more than 100 staff there to listen to that. We also had them using video assets on LinkedIn. So I think what's been a really key sort of success is the way in which you designed and created messaging and assets that our LEP partners could tailor and really capture their local sort of nuances and really profile those enterprise advisors from their current network and showcase them to encourage more locally to step forward. And a number of our partners have shared the campaign across their network. So for example, we've had the Home Builders Federation and the creative industries both share it through their member networks, reaching hundreds of people who have sort of clicked through to find out more. So we've had now about 500 expressions of interest, and we think about 150 of those have already converted into being enterprise advisors, which we're just delighted by. And you know, one of the things that we wanted to achieve, if you recall, was to get greater interest as well from micro businesses and self-employed people, and about 20% of those who've come forward have been from those cohorts, which is great because we've always run at about a 50-50 split between large businesses and SMEs and self-employed folk. And I think it's really sort of solidified the fact that, you know, anybody can do this role from any industry, regardless of background or experience. You're fully supported by the enterprise coordinator, and everybody have valuable skills that schools and colleges would welcome to bring a new perspective. So been really delighted with how it's gone thus far. And we're approaching obviously Volunteers Week at the start of June. So that's going to be our next push. So we really want to encourage more people to step forward, particularly to support SEND schools, so special educational needs and disability schools. So that will be our focus for our next round of promotion. And we've already got some sort of webinars teed up, and Health Education England have committed to promoting the campaign through all of the trusts. So we're looking forward to another spurt.
Yeah, all great sort of partners. Well, that's a brilliant result. And you know, as you said, one of the key aspects was to try and ensure that the core messages and design were consistent throughout the UK, but could also be localized and to reflect local industry, you know, strengths, and to tailor it to show local case studies and stuff. So I'm really glad that people have run with that. But I guess one of the anxieties, you know, that we had was that no matter how brilliantly polished a set of communications might have been, you're trying to recruit people in a pandemic where people are working from home. There's still huge numbers of people on furlough. There are businesses that are trying to, you know, protect their bottom line still, and perhaps sending out volunteers to work with schools is not as high up the agenda as it once might have been. Yeah, so to hear that it's been as successful as it has, that's brilliant.
It's been really interesting. You're right. It was a bit of a hold your breath moment. The whole lockdown really has been a bit of a hold your breath moment. You know, schools have been working incredibly hard to support their young people and been facing, you know, a real shifting sand landscape, and same for businesses in terms of the challenges that they've had to face, you know, and it's got really down to survival. So it's been a very, very tough time, but we've been just blown away by the ongoing and almost increased commitment that we've seen from both parties to support young people during this time. You know, we all have young people in our families in some way, shape or form. You know, the challenge they're facing is very real. But there's been some really good stories of how some fantastic activities have still continued during this period of lockdown, and reach young people perhaps who would not have, you know, ever heard of a particular industry or an employer. You know, the digital platform has enabled greater connectivity in that way. Now, of course, there have been the concern for those young people who haven't got access digitally. And again, great strides made by employers in local areas and schools to ensure that that equipment is available, and also not just the equipment, but that there's a space for young people to really be able to engage and have the skills to do so. So it's really flushed out a number of sort of challenges, but also opportunities, which I think has been superb. And I think, you know, there's been a renewed sense of community, and people have continued to step forward because they've got that renewed sense of community, and perhaps more to the place where they live now than where they work. So if they commuted to a city, perhaps now, and myself is included in this, you know, I'm now looking at my local area going, okay, what can I do to support here, rather than, you know, spending all my time commuting to London, which had been my pre-lockdown life. So I think it's a really exciting time, and it's just so brilliant that so many people are seeing the benefits, not only for giving back to the community, but also in a way that, you know, a role like this can support their business. You know, you get to really understand what the future talent pipeline might look like. You get to have the opportunity to share your key messages as an industry or as a business with school leadership teams. And of course, whilst the role is strategic, if you would then like to deliver activities for those students, or get some of your networks in to deliver activities for students, of course that's possible. So it's a real chance to provide that line of hope, and indeed do collective problem sharing with young people. They love working on a live project. You know, if you've got a real problem right now that you're trying to solve as a business, share it with some students and see some fresh thinking that might come up for it. It's not it's definitely not a one-way street.
No, absolutely. The more relevant and the more people, that high stakes is quite good, isn't it, sometimes, I think, because it just shows what the real world is like. Brilliant. That's absolutely fantastic to hear all that, Aimee. Good luck with the rest of the year and the rest of the rollout.
Thank you so much, and thanks again to you and the team for all the support. And yes, we'd love to have many more people join us. The more the merrier, so please do get in touch if it sounds of interest.